Greetings and welcome to my regular listeners and those joining us for the first time. Thank you for being here. I'm Peter Doherty, a Catholic priest and a psychologist, and I'm passionate about the rich relationship between psychology and spirituality. For too long, these fields have eyed each other with mistrust. That's ironic, because healthy psychology strengthens our spirituality, and true spirituality, grounded in solid psychological health, becomes a profound source of meaning and resilience. In this short podcast, I explore the gospel reading for the coming week. It is designed as a resource for preachers preparing for homilies or sermons, as well as for anyone teaching or studying Scripture. I draw from published articles in psychology and Scripture scholarship, plus anthropological background, to put the gospel message in a relatable context. I see the Scriptures as primarily guiding us in faith and spirituality. Biblical writers understood history differently from modern historians, and these texts are richly multi-layered. There's always more wisdom to uncover. If you find this podcast helpful, please subscribe. Share a question or comment. I love the conversation. And if you're on YouTube, consider subscribing and dropping a message letting me know where you're tuning in from. I'd like to take this opportunity to reach out to my listeners in Japan. Thank you for joining. The Gospel for March the 1st, 2026 focuses on the Transfiguration, where three disciples who witnessed Jesus' glory. This is found in Matthew chapter 17, verse 1 to 9. I've covered the Transfiguration before, so check out my episodes from March the 19th, 2025 and February the 18th, 2024. Today, however, I'll take a fresh approach. The Transfiguration stands out from accounts of Jesus' healings and teachings. There's a group of miracles that feel different, perhaps even puzzling, but they're deeply spiritual. Consider Jesus walking on water and inviting Peter to join him. We find this in Matthew chapter 14, verse 22 to 33. Calming the storm amid the disciples' pleas. Matthew chapter 8, verse 23 to 27. Mark chapter 4, verse 35 to 41. And Luke chapter 8, verse 22 to 25. Turning water into wine at a wedding. John chapter 2, verse 1 to 11. Finding a coin in a fish's mouth for the temple tax. Matthew chapter 17, verse 24 to 27. Or casting demons into a herd of pigs. Matthew chapter 8, verse 28 to 34. Mark chapter 5, verse 1 to 20. And Luke chapter 8, verse 26 to 39. You may even think of others. These were not random events. They served as teaching tools to illustrate Jesus' spiritual points. The Transfiguration is similar. Theologians note Moses as the law's author and ascribe Elijah as the greatest prophet. Together, they in fact show Jesus fulfilling both. That's powerful. But I wonder if there's more. Much remains in the realm of the mysterious and unknown. Scripture scholars offer theories, but we don't know exactly what happened. Whether the event took place before or after the resurrection, or why Jesus chose only Peter, James, and John to be present, or if Peter simply misunderstood, wanting to build tents for Moses and Elijah, or did it happen more than once or twice, or more? 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 16 to 18 calls it an eyewitness moment of Christ's majesty on the holy mountain. The disciples were sworn to secrecy, and thus we hear no more. The Gospels are full of such open ends. People appear and vanish without follow-up. Maybe we don't need to know all the answers for our faith to grow. There are multiple layers of meaning to explore. We easily spot Jesus' intervention in healings, feedings, and critiques of the Pharisees, but events like the Transfiguration, or those odd miracles, are often overlooked, and in the case of the Transfiguration, even misunderstood by Peter himself. I propose that we all have spiritual experiences. They may not dazzle us like the Transfiguration, but they're vital for our spiritual and psychological growth. I urge you to reflect, to remember past events that you cannot explain. Maybe they were an aha experience or a special being there at the right place, but the experience gave you perspective that you needed. Research confirms humanity's spiritual longing arises from an innate psychological and evolutionary and biopsychological drives, fueling our universal search for meaning, connection, and the sacred across cultures. I've mentioned James Fowler's Stages of Faith many times, as they describe spirituality as a lifelong meaning-making, from primal trust in infancy, stage 0, to rare universalizing compassion, stage 6. Self-determination theory by Edward Deci and Richard Ryan ties these experiences to the needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness, often fulfilling through the relationship with God or the sacred. Jungian analysts see the Transfiguration as a peak experience where one's ego meets the divine self, Jesus' shining face and clothes symbolizing wholeness and integration. I'm not saying that we need to overanalyze every odd event for spiritual meaning. Instead, we need to keep an open mind and heart. The Spirit may work in unexpected ways, and like the disciple Peter, we may misunderstand. But the answer here, or the search, is not for an answer, but to grow in what it means for us. Thank you for joining me today. Next Sunday, March the 8th, 2026, I will share reflections on the Samaritan woman at the well, John chapter 4, verse 5 to 15, 19 to 26, 39 to 42. Jesus broke barriers in order to encounter with this woman. New episodes drop every Sunday, focusing on the next week's gospel. A big thanks to Heather Patel Doherty and Richard Coulombe for their wonderful help for preparing each weekly episode. Questions or comments? Please email me at peter.doherty, that's DOHERTYOMI, @gmail.com. May God richly bless you.